near the end of the 1800s. A discovery would be made that experts and folklorists are arguing about to this very day. While researching my local History Association Facebook page, I saw a story that piqued my interest. It was a simple story with a simple question. So I read the comments. The answers absolutely surprised me. The story was almost unbelievable, but when folks had evidence to prove it, was just insane. So the story goes, a young boy living in the area known as Bryan and Higdon today walked down the mountain to town as he did most days. Something was different. Folks crowded around a buckboard wagon. They were in awe of what was inside. Curious, he wiggled his way up through the people to see legs sticking out of the back of a 10-foot long buckboard wagon. On closer view, they were Indian, giant, massive Indians, almost things of little western boys' nightmares. Once the crowd dissipated, what would happen to these 3 native giants? They were taken to the nearby Long Island community and laid to rest on the outskirts of the Harris Cemetery. 3 crosses and a sign was placed pointing to their location. With time, the 3 native giants and the cemetery itself was lost. Until the book, My Valley, My Home, was written. It's a history of the local area known as Hogjaw Ridge, which includes the cemetery. The post on the Historical Society's page is how I found out about this story. So who were these native giants? What happened to them? And where did they come from? Most importantly, is the whole event true or made up? A hoax. Join me as we go in search of the answers and see what we find out. Appalachia, the mountains are like no other. From its rigid terrain, beautiful wildlife, to the people that live their lives here, to the strange, unexplained stories that folks share. Join me while I share this amazing place, one story at a time. According to the story, like most, there are 2 versions of what actually happened to the native giants. The first story, according to the post, a man riding alongside the local tracks discovered the 3 lifeless native giants laying alongside the tracks. In those days, unlike today, instead of leaving them lay and go for help, he loaded them up in his buckboard wagon and hauled them into town when the folks crowded all around in awe of the vast size of these native giants. What caused the deaths is not known. It don't really seem as an investigation was really done to see what or who really happened. The second version of the story is that the 3 native giants were part of a sideshow act for a circus company. The circus came to town for a week-long show. During this time, the 3 had gotten sick. It was time to move on. The circus left them with a farmer who was going to nurse them back to health, and they were to catch up to the show then. But sadly, all 3 did not recover. they passed from the sickness. Either way, whatever version of the story you choose as proof, they were laid to rest in the Harris Cemetery near the end of the 1800s. Folklorists and experts and historians are still arguing over today is the who and where they came from. Some say this was a well-planned out hoax trying to bring fame to the little area. Others claimed it was just a normal-sized native, that the height was very misconstrued. But it's the others that say they are a rare kind of native, one of legend. There are 3 popular tribes, the Susquehannock, Osage, and the Sitka. Who were they, and how did they get here? The first tribe was the Susquehannock people. They spoke Iroquois and lived near the Susquehannock River in Pennsylvania and Maryland. They lived in fortified towns, skilled in farming, and amazing fur traders. They were led by elder women who held power in decision-making. Their settlements were large palisade towns with long houses surrounded by cornfields. They were first discovered by John Smith in 1608. He spoke of the mighty warriors and their heights. They were a force to be reckoned with, but the Iroquois would seem greater than even them. They were constantly under attack by them. Also, contact with European people would also prove fatal. They contracted smallpox and most died. The survivors continuously attacked. Finally, in 1678, they were overcome by the Iroquois Confederacy. They were adapted into their family or joined the Shawnee or Lenaxe tribe. Some just fled. There still remained a very small tribe of 20 Susquehannock in 1763. But a colonial mob would massacre them, leaving not a single one left. The second tribe is called the Sitka of Nevada. Paiute lore there were told to be red-haired giants who were cannibals. They were Paiute of sorts, but they made their tools differently, also used different stones than the Paiutes did. The Sitka used spears, where the Paiutes used arrows. They were told to be a mean, contemptible, and a foolish. Also loved decorating with bone ornaments, but were poor, so they wore robes made from skins and feathers of a mud hen. A daughter of a Paiute chief wrote in 1883 that a small tribe of barbarians were hunted by many people. They were told to have red hair passed from father to son many generations. They told that the hair was used to trim a dress called the mourning dress. How this tribe was ended was connected to a cave in Nevada known as Lovelock Cave, to be exact. The Paiutes forced the Sitka tribe into the cave, sealing it shut, and inside they passed. Thus the name Lovelock Cave. Thousands of years the cave was closed. In 1911, miners opened the place looking for gold. They discovered 2,000-year-old artifacts, sandals, baskets, and pottery, all sorts of things. They did not report their findings for a year. Some of the things were broken and stolen. But in 1912, still archaeologists were able to collect thousands of pieces of artifacts. A discovery was made that solidified the height of the native giants. A skeleton was discovered that was 6 feet 6 inches tall. Massive, if you ask me. Now, some experts say that they were no human bones, rather mammoth bones, which is absolutely absurd, if you ask me. Mammoth bones look nothing like human bones. The last tribe that could be the native giants were the Osage. The Osage were Sioux-speaking tribe from the Ohio River Valley, kin to the Kaw and Omaha, Ponca, and Quapaw tribes. They would migrate west, settling near the Missouri and Mississippi, dominating Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas, and Oklahoma. The men hunted, and the ladies processed the meat and tanned the hides. The Osage people were still very tall and well-built. Dark-featured wide faces, high cheekbones that often painted or tattooed. The men wore scalp locks, center parted with red paint for women. These native giants were 6.5 to 7 feet tall, very strong and graceful, with broad chests and strong arms and limbs. They dressed with leather pants, moccasins, and blankets, leaving the busts and the arms bare. Washington Irving is quoted as saying they were the finest looking natives in the West. The United States government ceded lots of land, but many people moved into Osage land, encroaching on them and their territory. In 1870, they indeed were forced to move from Kansas to the Oklahoma Territory. In 1906, the Osage Nation retained ownership of the mineral rights, and this was a great thing. Oil was discovered on their land, making them a rich people. But with riches come greed. In 1920, Osage leaders were killed while conspirators were trying to gain control of the empire. This time was known as the Reign of Terror. They still survive today on their Osage Nation land. Were one of these 3 tribes responsible for the native giants left on the tracks dead, or left by the circus to heal from sickness? There is no way to tell. The story itself, I truly believe, is true. We have a first-hand account of the 3 being in town on the wagon, even where they are buried. The Harris Cemetery is now lost to time in an overgrown forest, somewhere in the long-forgotten Long Island community. 2 of the 3 tribes were obliterated so long ago. I believe the oil discovery is all that kept the Osage tribe alive and well today. This story absolutely took me by surprise. when you're flipping through Facebook and you simply see someone asking, have you ever heard this story? And you hear that it was their great grandfather who saw these Indians in the town way back in the late 1800s, to have other people say, yeah, we've heard of it and we know where they're buried. And even have a local historian who had gotten paperwork of the history of the area who wrote a book. Man, it blew my mind. Who knew there were a real tribe of Indians that were absolutely massive like that? We've heard mentioned of it on other channels like Dixie After Dark, but I never knew that they came this close to me. Folks, I want to thank you for sitting and listening to the strange story of the three native giants who were found dead and taken into town for that little boy to see. I appreciate y'all listening. Love yous to pieces. And I'll see you next time.